Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time we're tackling the alpha mindset. You know, when I first saw that title, I have to admit, I was picturing, someone who's constantly trying to dominate every meeting or always has to be the loudest in the room. But looking at this pasted text source material that we have, it seems like it's something much deeper than that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's not about that kind of aggressive alpha behavior you see, like the stereotype. It's really about cultivating a mindset that helps you become the best possible version of yourself, and not just in a competitive way, but in a way that empowers you to make confident decisions and achieve your goals.
Okay, I'm intrigued already. So if it's not about being dominant, then what does it actually mean to have this alpha mindset? What are we talking about here?
I think a good way to think about it is like a combination of self-awareness, resilience, and really proactive goal setting. Pasted text emphasizes that a true alpha mindset starts with a deep understanding of your strengths, but also acknowledging your weaknesses. And it's about using that self-knowledge to make clear strategic decisions in every aspect of your life.
So it's like knowing yourself inside and out, and then using that knowledge to create the life you want.
Exactly. And the source material suggests that this can actually lead to some pretty incredible benefits. They argue that an alpha mindset can make you a more effective leader, improve your relationships, even boost your overall well-being.
Those are some benefits I think we could all get behind, but let's get into some specifics. The source mentions things like mindfulness and meditation as part of developing this mindset. That's not what I typically think of when I hear alpha.
Yeah, that might seem a little unexpected at first, but there's a really intentional connection there. The source actually recommends a specific type of mindfulness meditation called insight meditation. It's not just about clearing your mind, but actively observing your thoughts and emotions without judgment. And that ties directly back into that crucial self-awareness we were just talking about.
So it's about using that stillness to really understand how your mind works.
Exactly. Pasted text suggests that this kind of self-reflection can help you identify, maybe some patterns of behavior that are holding you back. And then you can make, more conscious choices that are actually aligned with your goals.
That makes a lot of sense. And speaking of goals, the source really dives into this concept of SMART goals as a key component of the alpha mindset. The specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound kind of goals. But honestly, I feel like I've heard about SMART goals a million times before. What's so unique about how this pasted text source material approaches them?
Well, you're right. SMART goals are a pretty popular concept. But what I find fascinating here is how the source material applies them to really specific challenges that people with an alpha mindset might face. For example, they talk about using SMART goals to overcome procrastination.
Oh, they're calling me out already. Okay, I'm listening. Tell me more about how they suggest using SMART goals to beat procrastination.
Well, instead of setting a vague goal, be more productive, the pasted text recommends breaking down your task into smaller, more hyper-specific steps. So instead of saying I'll write that report, you would say, I'm going to spend 30 minutes each morning outlining the key points of the report. It's about, making the task feel less daunting and giving yourself clear, actionable steps that you can actually stick to.
That's interesting. It's like taking this big, overwhelming thing and turning it into a series of mini missions that you can conquer.
Exactly. And by setting a specific time frame, dedicating 30 minutes each morning, you're incorporating that time-boundedness and makes a SMART goal really effective.
Okay, that's a great tip. I can definitely see myself applying that. But there's one more thing from the source material that's really throwing me off. It talks about embracing failure as part of developing an alpha mindset. How does that fit into all of this?
This is where things get really interesting. Yeah, so the source material actually kind of challenges that traditional view of failure we all have. It argues that people with an alpha mindset, they don't really see setbacks as defeats, but rather as valuable learning opportunities.
Yeah.
They understand that the path to success is rarely linear, and that every stumble along the way can provide insights that ultimately lead to growth.
Okay, I get that in theory, but in practice, failure still feels bad, even if you try to rationalize it.
Well, absolutely. It's human to feel disappointed or frustrated when things don't go the way you planned. The source isn't saying you should suppress those feelings or anything. Instead, they encourage you to examine those setbacks through a different lens, to ask yourself things like, okay, what can I learn from this experience? Or how can I use this feedback to adjust my approach and make better decisions moving forward?
So it's not about pretending that failure doesn't sting, but about using that discomfort to fuel improvement.
Exactly. The pasted text talks a lot about developing resilience, like that ability to bounce back from challenges, stronger and wiser. They even give a step-by-step process for reframing failure. Like they suggest journaling about your feelings and analyzing what went wrong, identifying potential solutions, and then creating a plan to move forward.
That reminds me of something I read in the source material about one of the listeners. They talked about how they used to get super anxious before big presentations at work. They would completely freeze up and it was really impacting their confidence.
Oh yeah, I remember that listener. Their story is a great example of how applying the principles of an alpha mindset can lead to a real transformation. So they decided to use that pre-presentation anxiety as a cue to practice mindfulness techniques. They would focus on their breathing and acknowledge their nerves, and remind themselves that they were prepared, capable.
And what happened? Did it actually help?
The listener reported that over time, the mindfulness exercises actually helped them reduce their anxiety significantly. They were able to approach presentations with a much calmer, more focused mindset. They even started to enjoy public speaking, which is something they never thought would be possible.
Wow, that's incredible. It really shows you the power of shifting your perspective, even in situations that feel incredibly challenging.
Exactly. And this ties into another fascinating concept from the pasted text, the idea of strategic planning. It emphasizes that an alpha mindset isn't just about reacting to situations, but proactively shaping your own path forward.
So it's not just putting out fires, but creating the kind of you actually want to live.
Precisely. The source really encourages you to think deeply about your long-term goals, your values, and what truly matters to you. And then using those insights to create a roadmap for your life, like a plan that outlines the steps you need to take to achieve your desired outcomes.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all this fits together now. Self-awareness, resilience, goal setting, strategic planning, they all seem to work together to create this really powerful and proactive mindset. But I'm curious, how does this translate into real life scenarios? Let's say you're facing a major career decision or a big personal dilemma. How can this alpha mindset help you navigate those situations?
That's a great question. And it's something the pasted text actually addresses directly. They provide a specific example of a listener who was feeling really stuck in their career. They'd achieved a certain level of success, but they felt kind of unfulfilled and uncertain about their next steps, Well, they didn't just, quit their job and hope for the best or anything. The pasted text emphasizes that an alpha mindset isn't about making impulsive decisions. It's more about approaching challenges with a combination of courage and strategy, This particular listener decided to use all the principles we've been talking about to create a plan for their career transition.
So they use those SMART goals and strategic planning we were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. First, they really focused on defining their ideal career path, really digging deep into what would bring them professional fulfillment, but also personal satisfaction. And then use those SMART goals to kind of break down this big, overwhelming goal of changing careers into smaller, more manageable steps.
Yeah. I can see how that would be helpful. Instead of feeling paralyzed by the whole thing, you create a step-by-step plan to get you there.
Right, and they didn't stop there. They also use their self-awareness to kind of identify their strengths and weaknesses, figure out which skills they needed to develop to make this career transition successful. They even started reaching out to people in their desired field for advice and networking.
So they were really proactive, using all those tools of the alpha mindset to navigate this big change. What happened next? Did they end up getting their dream job?
Well, the source material doesn't give us all those details, but it does say that the listener reported feeling much more confident and empowered throughout the whole process. Just by applying these principles of the alpha mindset, they were able to approach this career transition not with fear and uncertainty, but with a real sense of purpose and direction.
You know what I find so inspiring about all these stories from the listeners is that they really show how this alpha mindset, it's not just some theoretical concept, it can actually be applied to real life situations, whether you're dealing with career stuff, personal dilemmas, or just trying to improve your overall mindset.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this pasted text source material so valuable. It gives you a framework, a set of tools that anyone can use to cultivate this empowering mindset.
So let's do a quick recap for our listeners. If you're feeling inspired to develop your own alpha mindset, what are the key takeaways from our deep dive today?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's about cultivating that deep self-awareness, really taking the time to understand your strengths, your weaknesses, your values, and what really drives you.
Right, because you can't really set effective goals or make strategic decisions if you don't know yourself.
Exactly. And then it's about developing that resilience, that ability to bounce back from setbacks and use them as opportunities to grow. Remember, the path to success is rarely ever a straight line.
And of course, we can't forget about setting those clear, actionable goals, using things like those SMART goals we were talking about, taking those big, sometimes daunting things and breaking them down into smaller, more achievable steps.
For sure. And all of these principles work together to create that proactive, empowered mindset that we've been calling the alpha mindset.
As we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with a question. What resonated with you the most today? What's one concept or technique from this deep dive that you're excited to try out in your own life?
That's a great question to think about. And remember, even small shifts in mindset can have a huge impact on your life.
So keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep diving deep into the power of the alpha mindset. Until next time.